The name, hallowed be your name. When Moses was at Mount Sinai, God gave him the Ten Commandments. One of the Ten Commandments, particularly number 6, it is, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain." God puts an extreme measure of importance on his name. How important it is that God would put it in the Ten Commandments. God decided to have it included. That God placed a premium weight on having his name hallowed. The fact that it is inserted in the Ten Commandments. In Leviticus 24:16, it reads, "Whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him, the sojourner as well as the native. When he blasphemes the name shall be put to death." A few observations from this text. Whoever blasphemes will be punished. Whoever blasphemes will not escape punishment. There will certainly be punishment for that sin. All the congregation will stone him. Everyone participates in the stoning of the blasphemer. The consequences is the very life of the individual. Death is deserved to the blasphemer. For the holy name of God must be reverenced. Let's define what Jesus means in this prayer. When we don't define things according to what Jesus meant, we will miss the meaning here. The word hallow means to be set apart for sacred use, to make known, acknowledged as holy. To hallow the name is to hold God in utter or complete respect and honor. Since the fall of humanity, by nature, one wants to build a name for oneself. Let us take a look at the Tower of Babel. In Genesis 11:4, they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city." In the New Testament, we would pin this down from what John wrote in 1 John 2:16. "For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world." The pride of life takes many forms, but ultimately it is when one exalts his name above the name of God. The pride of man seeks to make his own name great. The pride of life cares more about one's name than the name of God. If we care more about preserving our name than the name of God, it is the pride of life within us. Man is naturally enslaved and bent to make his name big. Let us take a look at the life of Nebuchadnezzar, someone who is guilty of the pride of life. In Daniel 4:28 through 34, all this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he was walking on the roof of the royal palace of Babylon. And the king answered and said, "Is not this great Babylon, which I have built by my mighty power as a royal residence and for the glory of my majesty?" While the words were still in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, "O King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken, the kingdom has departed from you. And you shall be driven from among men, and your dwelling shall be the beasts of the field. And you shall be made to eat grass like an ox. And 7 periods of time shall pass over you until you know that the Most High rules the kingdom of men and gives it to whom he will." Immediately the word was fulfilled against Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven from among men and ate grass like an ox, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven till his hair grew as long as eagle's feathers, and his nails were like bird's claws. Nebuchadnezzar restored. At the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my season returned to me. And I blessed the Most High, and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom endures from generation to generation. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven. For all his works are right, and his ways are just. And those who walk in pride, he is able to humble. This should grab our attention, that we have a warning that we must heed to observe what pride has done in the life of Nebuchadnezzar. God is a jealous God. He's jealous for his own name, and rightly so, that he deserves the glory and the honor, for he is God. The name that we are to hallow is the name of God, who revealed himself to us in his word. the one who is transcendent above all people and things. He is the uncreated one who created all things, seen and unseen. He is infinite while we are finite. He is unlimited in power while we are limited. It's all of who God is, and all His divine attributes would be made known throughout creation. It comprises all of the titles of God in the very name of God. The Most High, King of Glory, the Almighty, the Lord of Hosts, I am that I am, Lord, Everlasting God, the Holy One, the Righteous Judge, Helper, the hiding place, a refuge, a rock, and shield. These are only a few, but you can go on and on. When we think about these titles and names, it lightens up our souls because we see little glimpses of the vastness of our God. This is a prayer that God would cause His name to be held in honor and utmost respect everywhere. To hallow the name of God means that God is supreme in our desires, thoughts, and deeds. 1 Peter 3:15, but in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy. We must recognize God as holy and treat it holy. This isn't just a mere assertion that the name of God is holy, but that it's a request that God's name be holy. God is to be regarded as holy in all spheres of life. There should be not a square inch in our lives that His name is not honored. God, by all means, deserves to be hallowed because of who He is. This is a prayer that the name of God would be glorified and His name be known. We pray that the name of God would spread in all cities, states, and countries. Seek the Lord in prayer that God's name would be magnified in and through us. We live in a society that the name of God isn't considered holy. They blaspheme God, they mock God, they laugh at God. If we want to make a great impact upon our society, let the people of God first see the sacredness of the name of God. We can only do the will of God when we regard the name of God holy. If we want worship that is acceptable to God, it begins here. No true adoration, obedience, and delight flow from a heart that does not perceive the sacredness of God. We cannot pray well if God is not the center of our desires. Our primary duty in prayer is to forget about ourselves and focus upon the Holy One. The attitude that we have towards God determines everything else about our lives. Everything else should fall below. The glory of God ought to be the chief aim of our prayers. This will change everything about prayer. When we begin to take our eyes off ourselves and we focus upon Him, it shifts our hearts and our minds and our souls.